Welcome back to Worldwide Reds. How are we, boys? I'm still dragging this stupid-ass flu. It's driving me nuts. Mate, I don't know where we're at. I think we're still in pre-season after last weekend. Absolutely craziness the way the weekend went. Tom and I watched the game together with the supporters club, and Tom, I thought we were going to carry each other out. I tell you, it wasn't a good Saturday night.
Yeah, it's one of those rhetorical questions. How we all feel, and I think the answer is quite obvious.
Yeah.
I think that the emotion has not the shock in the performance, but the emotion has eased a little bit, given the evidence we have around the Premier League and how sort of up and down it was, and sort of the realization. Yes, it is round one, and we will be fine, or hopefully be fine. But there is no hiding from the emotions and the feeling we had throughout that 90 minutes and how bad it was. Like, I can't remember a worse performance. You look at 7-0s at Anfield, you look at smashings in derbies, you look at Grimsby's, you look at knockout defeats in the cup and everything. This is up there. I thought this was one of the worst performances I've seen from Man United. So tough weekend, but yeah, as I said a couple of minutes ago off air, we're still above Spurs. We had the most devastating result of the weekend. It's still above Spurs. So that's the positive I'm taking. But tough weekend. Can only get better.
What was it like up at the Brisbane Supporters Club, Elliot?
Look, I think it was, a lot of excitement, but then just after that first goal, it was just flat. And then second goal goes in, and then you get, a bit of, a bit of negativity, which is natural for us as fans, just with the amount of optimism that we have at the start of every season. And then just some interesting discussions, with a few other, supporters sort of after the game on the way home and that. So. Yeah, very, After a game like that, you just see so many sort of divided opinions. You can't even count how many divided opinions there are after a defeat like that. Different things being said and all that. So, yeah, disappointing. But like Tom said, hopefully it'll get better. It can only get better.
It has to get better.
Yeah. Has to get better.
Where'd you watch it, Nick?
I was actually traveling to one of this historical place called Hampi, but was watching on my cell phone. But
Is
after
your cell
3
phone
years,
still in one piece?
yes, it is in one piece. Thanks. My patience was not been tested, apparently, because I was much more engaged with my family get together. But after 3 years, we had this first screening. The last one we did was the homecoming of Ronaldo, and since then. This was the first time in Kolhapur we had a huge screening. People, we had a good count as well. That people were excited to see the first game under Carrick. But oh my God, I've seen the chat on the WhatsApp. I've seen few live sessions that happened there, and it was not good. It was very disappointing. To be honest, like I couldn't agree to the fact that United were affected with the AC Milan game, and we can see the real deal what was happening, and that was continued in this game as well. So I feel, I agree to Mr. Carpenter that divided opinions, but let's hope for the best. Yeah, the only takeaway from that particular week was Tottenham losing and then Aston Villa getting battered from Brighton.
Let's have a look at the results before we get into United and look. It is the first round, and we lost the first round. We've lost 3 out of the last 6, which is 50% rate over the last 6 years, 6 seasons. So it's nothing new to us. We got Arsenal very comfortably won 3-0 over Coventry, even though a few of them were tap-in goals. Everton over Crystal Palace, which is a little bit of a shock result for myself. City got away with it last minute again. Obviously, Hull United 2-0. It's so hard to read that result. Leeds got over Forest. Brighton well and truly touched up Aston Villa 4-0. Ipswich, who we play this weekend, 2-1 over Sunderland. Brentford over Spurs. everyone still want the 2 midfielders that they bought that we apparently should have got. And 2-2 Newcastle Liverpool. Everyone thought Newcastle would struggle, but looks like Liverpool got their last minute equaliser as well. So they're the results. And Fulham Chelsea tomorrow 5 a.m. for us tomorrow. So they're results from the first round. Any surprises there? Probably for me is maybe Ipswich. The Ipswich go right though. Maybe. Well, everyone was thinking Tottenham are top 3, aren't they? So top 3 or 4, even top 6. Brentford.
You'd be silly. You'd be silly to not think that. You'd be silly to not say that Spurs result was probably surprising. We know how good Brentford are and how organised they are, but I think we're expecting a bit more from Spurs with the money they've splashed.
Maybe the scoreline, but I don't think Brentford beaten. I think Brentford better than Spurs. I don't think.
Yeah.
Okay, take the name out of it. I think Brentford are far stronger than Spurs. It is hard. We're talking about discussions around Spurs finishing in Champions League spots or getting back in Europe. I think we're a bit naive. I think they still have a long way to go. They've been 17th 2 seasons in a row. So the scoreline obviously is a bit sort of surprising. Obviously, it's a heavy defeat. But I think Brentford at home against Tottenham, a standard victory for them. Other than that, I think the results pretty much, except obviously Manchester United's, pretty much go to script. Obviously, the Brighton scoreline does stand out. But in regards to Hull and United, the scoreline, well, correct me if I'm wrong. Manchester United, even if we win the treble, we are losing to a newly promoted team, 100%. And around November, December, we're going to play the team who's coming 20th. We'll lose to that team. That is, even if in a successful season, that is what Manchester United do. So I am not overly fussed about losing the match or getting off to a bad start in the Premier League season, or really the performance. It's how they bounce back from that. How do they react? One, Michael Carrick and the players going into Ipswich, and what do the board do? Are they going to react with? Now it's going to look like they react with Baleba signing. Yeah. Now we do know that has probably been done a couple of days before, so it's not in direct result of that match against Hull. But there will be some type of reaction there in regards to, is it a striker, is it a defender, is it a left back? I'm not sure, but I've no issue with losing to Hull or the lack of 3 points and what that's going to mean come May. But it was just an alarming performance. I think it was so bad I'm a little bit at ease with it. There was like no shoots of positivity where I could sort of maybe cling to and maybe that would divide opinion. But I think it was so bad. It was one of those ones where I can just kind of chalk it off, hopefully. That to prove me wrong against Ipswich in a couple of days. But hopefully just one of those days. But in saying that, we've had far too many one of those days in recent years.
Yeah.
It's the first time in history we've lost two of the opening season games on the bounce. So,
yeah. I'll get into a couple of those comments before we get into the chat. Dino's already messaged me before we're late. Literally, we would have been 30 seconds, Dino, out before you said it. Here we go. Dino's here. Carrick out. Mark, he's gone evening, lads. Jordan, you should be doing your quotes, mate. That's why you never turned up tonight. Apparently, you had a big night of quoting. Key for next season, lads. Apparently, Elliot fell asleep through the whole game. Where else have we got? They're all just... Let's just ignore the other blokes. Dino's there. He wants Chris Wood in again. Let's have $1 for each time he says that. Come on, boys.
Get an ongoing tally.
An ongoing tally, exactly.
Yeah, just post it live.
When the lineup came out, boys, you weren't disappointed with the lineup, surely. I wasn't. I was pretty excited. We're all excited with the lineup and everything like that. But we were shocked about Ahmed Diallo not being part of the squad. So, and it looks like he's out for 6 weeks, which is a bit of a shock to the system. I didn't actually read what was actually wrong. So, has anyone got any updates on that?
Look, I think the thing about this that annoys me is, I think Carrick said in his pre-game interview, like he picked up a niggle in training. We didn't want, like, it's the same freaking story. We picked up a niggle in training. We didn't want to risk it. So he's put out the team. We'll assess it and stuff. Now, I'm pretty sure the same story was given to us when Mount picked up a little niggle during the game, he'll be okay. How many? I guess, and the same with the Delit injury as well. When that happened, it was, I picked up something, and that picked up something in his back, and now he's been off since for 6 months. What are we concerned about? How the injury happened? Are we concerned about that part?
Look, I agree to an extent. However, I also look at it just through a different lens. What do we want? Do we want Michael Carrick to come out and say, this happened, he's out for 7 weeks? Then we've got a clock on it. 7 weeks and he's back in 9 weeks. Well, what the hell happened? What happened to those 2 weeks? I think it's one of those things where, and one, there's a confidentiality to it, but also in regards to putting time frames on things, especially when you don't know what's happening in injuries, everyone's going to react differently. Okay, we all sit here and say, okay, torn hamstring, you're out for 6 weeks. Just a ballpark. Well, you might be up for 6 weeks. I might take 4.5 weeks. He might take 8 weeks. There's no. We as fans, in terms of the way we consume all the news, and we need updates daily, and we need results in regards to receiving the news. I think injuries is such a delicate topic at the moment because we're so desperate. We need to know, okay, who tackled him? Was it the left hamstring? Is it the right hamstring? Has he had previous injuries there? How long was he out for with that injury? How does that compare to the person who had that injury? I just think there is just so much data. There is so much information around our need to know everything about the injuries, and I share it. I share it as well. But I think Michael Carrick is the one who is going to not get the blame. But yeah, why isn't he giving us a specific answer? Why isn't he giving us more detail? I think, well, if he gives us the detail, very, very sort of likely in 6 weeks that detail is going to be proven incorrect, and we're going to call Michael Carrick a liar. And I just think that's not how injuries and recovery work. So I share the frustration, but I also look at it from what do we want? Because what we're asking for, I tell you, in 6 weeks we're going to be moaning about.
Yeah, and I think lately we have been following the same strategy where we are keeping these information quite close to our chest. Like, we are not revealing this to the media because the media then takes it to another level. Just like how Tom has given that update, the thing that if it's a torn hamstring, then a regular recovery would take 6 weeks or 8 weeks, and if it goes and it gets extended after that, then the media would revolve around the team and and everyone knows how media is influential in the are very much keen on Manchester United as a club. So it's in a way it is better that not to reveal these detailed confidential information, but at the same time, I feel knowing the fact that if there is a serious injury, then we might have to see how the strategy works. So that's again a news for our fans as well. What would be the next strategy? Who should be playing there? What could happen if other player who gets injured there? So a lot of factors comes into the picture, I feel, for that matter.
What I would say, just to follow up on that, Arsenal fans moan about the same thing with Arteta. Manchester City fans said the same thing about Pep Guardiola. Yep. Every fan base having the same sort of debate. It's just one of those things which has been around the whole time and will always be there in the future.
Yeah.
Getting on to the game, boys. Getting on to the game, our midfield, man. Far out was doing my head in big time. The first part I noticed in our game in that was Cunha and Bruno getting in each other's way all the time. The little slide passes between Bruno's legs and no one was there. The communication in that front third around the box. For me, it was like, I don't like to say that. I always talk about players' attitudes and things like that and mindsets. I'm more talking about mindsets. And the mindset on the weekend for me was just that poor. It was ridiculous. To think this day and age that teams still come out and think they're just going to come out and win a game is absolutely ridiculous. Just what did you think about that? And I agreed with Tony, with Dino. We had a bit of a chat about this, about us not having another 9, putting Cunha into the 9. And we did go to lengths and speak about this for a while. And we all thought that, we've got plenty of players that can, play that 9 position. And it was really evident for me on the weekend that Cunha was so far out of position a lot of the times. And then Bruno took up that high position midway through the second half, or even the start of the second half. Bruno started dropping deep. And Harry Maguire dictating the pace of the game. It's just, I'm so overseeing that. I'm so overseeing Maguire get the ball and dictate the pace of the game. It's just, for me, it's just fucking shouldn't exist. Thoughts? And that's being light.
Um,
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
a combination of a couple of issues. I think it's not just. I don't think players may not have understood what their roles are, but they. But on the flip side, they may actually have. But it's their individual performances that let them down. I did think there was too many individual performances that just weren't good enough on the weekend. I also think that you talk about, and I've spoken about this sort of recently too. I'm not sure about this Tillemans Fernandez combination. I think there was a little bit of they were falling over each other in terms of their roles, which then actually that was why Bruno was probably drifting into that 9 out wide into where Cunha is, and they're falling over each other. And what that's actually doing is overrunning the midfield behind them, and then Santos is being exposed are being made to look absolutely ordinary as well. I think you've got too many square pegs in round holes at the moment. Mixed with new players integrated into the team and understanding their roles and where they fit, and creating new combinations and stuff like that. Like that's probably my more positive spiel on that part of the game.
Yeah. For me, that's inexcusable. That's not an
Yeah, no,
excuse.
I'm not saying
they
it.
They train plenty of times together, plus pre-season, to get in each other's way. And the way Tino's just made a point here. Brian and Bumo plays 9 all pre-season, and for the first game of the season,
Yeah.
he goes and plays out on the wing. It's just
too.
like
Said that too. But Adam, don't forget Bruno and Tillemans. Well, Tillemans was an earlier addition back to pre-season. Bruno was a little bit later. So you do have to have that in your mind a little bit. Like you've got to have that part in your mind a little bit. I think, and in terms of and Bramo playing out wide, I think that didn't make sense to me until he probably wouldn't have been playing out there if Ahmad was fit. And I don't think we would have seen Cunha start the game if Ahmed was fit. So that probably threw a little bit more of a spanner in the works for Carrick's sort of plans on how we were to set up. Because I think he probably wanted to play the front three who had most minutes in pre-season for sure. You know, and that looked good with Bramo at 9 at times and Ahmed on the wing during pre-season. But I just think that probably changed things a little bit.
Let me just put this comment up from Jordan. Sorry. Come on, guys. We played a false 9 against a back 5, then wondering why there's no space. There was zero reasoning for Sesko not to be in the best version, no World Cup. Now, I want to hit you on that. I don't think we tried to play a false 9. I just think Cunha and Bruno were getting so deep in that around that 10 position. I just don't think they knew where they were playing. I don't think they tried to play a false 9. I just think they were so out of position every time.
And I completely understand the frustration, Adam, but I feel since the preseason, I feel Carrick is trying to replicate his style of play from Middlesbrough, where 3 of his center, like one of the wing back is coming, so your extreme flank is coming in the middle, and then 3 defense, and all the 5 are pressing ahead. That leaves no room for a player like Doggo, because he's pressing the last man on the extreme side of his, and that leaves the gap in the midfield, and that's how what.
Yeah, but Doggo's got to
Mr.
learn to
Carpenter
control the ball first, Nick.
that goes into the individual performances, but I'm saying about the system. I know what Carrick is trying to do. If you see the I'm not a stat padder, but I can see the stats what says, and we were completely in possession throughout the game, 71-29 if I'm not wrong. I certainly understand what Carrick is trying to implement, but at the same time I feel the player needs more cohesion to understand what roles they are. So just like Tillemans and Bruno coming each other's way, and then Bruno going up and mixing up with Cunha, and the fact that Mbumo has been playing number 9 throughout the preseason, and when you know that Seshko is not there, why aren't you doing the same thing? Just play the same drill that you played throughout the preseason. Don't try to, at least for the first game, when it sets the mood right. You don't have to experiment much. You can experiment throughout the season, slowly, gradually, when you're trying to integrate all these new players, new tactics, new what we say, one-to-one connections with these players. And that's the reason why Andros Santos was looking so miserable. Like he was like just the regular Ugarte who is playing in the team. He was exposed to anything. So I feel it goes down to individual performances. Yes, right. Dogu needs to understand how to control the ball and to understand how to do it. But at the same time, the system needs to be much more mature enough. I hope that gets matured enough in the future games as well. That is something I feel. I had an opinion on in that game.
Tom?
Yeah, look, I agree with 90% of the comments and what all three of you lads there have said in regards to the feel, how he felt in midfield, and that was off the back of sort of similar players, or were we playing a false nine, or were we playing a number 10 in the striker role, and everyone sort of gravitates to their natural strengths and areas on the pitch, and suddenly got 3 or 4 players in and around Bruno Fernandes, where, okay, let Bruno do that job, everyone else go do their own job. So it did get a little bit crowded, especially with not much space in behind. So that's definitely the feel I had. You'd have to ask Michael Carrick on what his sort of plan was there. But Elliot mentioned earlier in regards to, did you say Tillemans and Bruno playing together? I think it was, in regards to not quite sure on how that's going to work. And I'm as guilty as anyone in feeling, okay, does this player match with him? Is he going to have a good combination? I'm as guilty as anyone. However, I do think, and there's no rush and there's no sort of demand on sort of fixing it right away, but it does need time. But I'm also a firm believer, and again, I'm guilty of it, but I am a firm believer when I take a step back and really think about it, good players can play with each other. I remember Rudy and Tevez were too similar. It's probably the best partnership I've ever seen in football. And I just think it's one of those things where we weren't complaining about Cunha, Bruno and Mbeumo last season when they were killing it under Michael Carrick. Suddenly a flat performance and a bad performance in one game here, that they can't play together in the same team. I'm not saying that's what we're saying, but that is where the discussion will go if we have 1 or 2 more bad results. So it was bad. It was bad individually. Please don't have a segment on Patrick Dorgu. That was bad. I don't want it to go too far towards that discussion. But
Well, I was trying to get George on tonight, mate. He would have gone off.
Look, just my thoughts on Dorgu, because I remember I put a tweet out last year and I went back and found it like 6 weeks later and deleted it because I did feel bad, because I hate going in on individuals, and I think it was hard because he was a little bit of the flavour of the month after a goal against Arsenal and Manchester City, which were great goals and good performances, and there was a feel-good vibe. Correct me if I'm wrong, and this does sound extremely disrespectful, of course, and I don't want it to come across like that, because he is a likable player. Like, at the moment, my thoughts on Marcus Rashford and Patrick Dorgu, I'm playing Patrick Dorgu, just my feelings towards Rashford. Now, that could change when Rashford sort of cuts in against Ipswich and puts it in the top corner. I'm back on the Rashford bandwagon. With Dorgu, though, I can't think of a worse footballer fundamentally than I've seen at Man United since Bebe. I just think what he offers, he's got great physical attributes. He's got a good attitude, of course. I can't, just in terms of the basics, in terms of body position when controlling the ball, pass decision in regards to, okay, Brian Mbeumo's left-footed, I'll pass to his left foot, or pass to his right foot. He'll pass to his right foot. And I just think all these are just little things. I can't think of a worse player I've seen. Now, that doesn't mean he can't contribute greatly to Man United. If anyone can tell, that sounds bad. And he's obviously a great football plays for Man United. But if anyone can tell me a worse one, feel free. And if there's a hesitation,
Obertan, yeah.
He had ability. And I'm not saying he's a great Manchester United. It's a debate for another day. And again, I don't want to sort of
that's another one that popped in my head.
But
you got to feel sorry. You got to feel sorry for Dorgu in a way.
Yeah, I'm not blaming him at all.
But
in regards
his
to
performance
the
just wasn't good enough, was it?
Yeah,
his performance just wasn't good enough, and rightfully so. Carrick took him at half time. And probably more to protect him, to be honest. I think talk about Carrick's good man management skills, but I guess the other thing, and Adam, you've probably got it written down to discuss, but he was replaced by Rashford, and he was probably our brightest spark. I mean, in my opinion,
Don't be
there was a
afraid
lot
to
of
say it, Elliot.
there was a lot of mixed feelings and stuff when he was coming on, and one of the supporters at the in Brizzy was yelling some interesting comments towards Rashford as he got the ball and all that sort of stuff. So, look, but I think he brought a spark to the game, and I think he looked like our best of the worst, best of the players on the field for the second half. Yeah.
Look, I don't want to go in on Harry Maguire, but I'm gonna. All right, right, and because I've been, you know me, I'm pretty fair with every player. Okay, and okay, he's probably been put now into a position where our centre halves are still injured. They're still not back. Harry's had to play all pre-season, but I don't understand. And I'm gonna put what do you call it on this as well, Carrick. I do not understand why, and if any of you three guys can tell me why Harry Maguire actually has more touches than Bruno Fernandes in a game. Why? I just don't get it. Not to mention Harry marking on set pieces and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden we're behind, so he's up front. He's the only one dragging, and credit to him, he's the only one dragging the ball through the midfield. Why? But why is that happening?
It comes down to finish point out of that, but I agree where you're going to, because all I would say there is we've asked about all these great players over the years who have come to Man United. We'll watch them at Real Madrid. We watch them at this club. They're brilliant footballers. Then they come to United and you think, what's happened here? The guy can't control the ball. He can't kick a ball. And that is the weight of the Manchester United shirt. And 9 times out of 10, when a player sort of steps across that line for Man United, the pressure is on. Even when we're doing well, there is huge pressure. So can you imagine the pressure on the first game of the season when you're 2-0 down to Hull? No one wants to be out there. And Harry Maguire, whatever we think of him, whatever we think of him as a defender, whatever we think of the business around him, whatever we think of his future, he is a player who has shown at times a weak mentality, but at times very strong mentality to come back. And I just think in that area of the pitch, I've been a midfielder lacking a little bit of confidence. I don't want to go get the ball and make a mistake and suddenly our team's 3-0 down. Harry Maguire is one player. I don't think it's a tactic by Michael Carrick. I think it's a leadership quality of Harry Maguire to be the one, I'm going to get the ball. It shouldn't be his job. Someone in midfield should do it in front of him. And okay, I'm a better player than you, Harry. Give me the ball. I'll do that job instead of you. But a lot of people might just part ways a little bit and let Harry Maguire do it because he's willing to do it. And I just think that is where it could obviously be a tactical thing. I don't think so. Would have to ask Michael Carrick. But that's where I think Harry Maguire looked like being our main player. And sometimes it does happen. I remember the Europa League final. Lenny Yoro was doing it at the back. Sometimes the midfielders say, I don't want this. And sometimes it takes a defender with a little bit more space to drive the ball into that area. But then when they get into that area, being a centre-back, they lack a little bit of quality, which you do need there. And I think that's what was happening.
And then that question becomes, why doesn't Bruno Fernandes then come and get the ball off him? You know what I mean? Because the second half he was playing a little bit deeper and Harry was still driving that ball forward. Yeah. And the amount of times Bruno got the ball and he was just popping it into space, he just, I don't know.
I think the stat that you've thrown out is more of a reflection on Bruno than it is on Maguire, in my opinion. Yeah. A few, I was chatting to one of the lads sort of as the game was finishing, as we were walking out of the pub, and he said, look, and you could agree to disagree here, but at least Harry Maguire was one of the players on the field trying. I feel like there was a good handful of players that weren't.
Look, I agree, but in regards to the way that's playing out, the discussion we're having in and around, well, why isn't Bruno doing it? I think this one, I just have to look at this for the 90 minutes that it was, because I've seen us in very tough situations where it's been 3-0 down to Manchester City or something, and Bruno Fernandes is that one player who's doing everything. So I have seen Bruno do this. Just this game, it didn't look like he was. So I'm not going to, I know no one's questioning Bruno Fernandes' mentality here, but that's kind of where you could see this. It's kind of what we're alluding to. I just think, I don't have those doubts over Bruno Fernandes. It just, this one, it just didn't happen for some reason. I don't know the answer to it.
There's a lot of comments going around, Tom, that Bruno should that Bruno should go, and fans want him to go. It's time. He's at
Definitely
the age. I don't believe that. Absolutely don't believe that. I think he's still got a good couple of years left in him, and I've seen, reports
if that volley by Brian Mbeumo goes in, the goalkeeper doesn't have a fat hand and it goes in, we're having a different discussion.
That's right. I think, talks around a new contract and all that sort of stuff I've heard happening. I think we're very quick to turn on players when things go sour and forget about the other things.
No, I think for Bruno, I feel it always happens with the game how it turns out. Whenever we lose, when we lose like sorely, then it comes down to the most creative player who is there, who has been giving in and out for the entire last season or couple of years, and that's Bruno. But coming to the point where I feel Bruno was not able to receive the ball when Harry Maguire is trying his best to hold that midfield and come ahead, I think, and that's my personal opinion, Tielemans and Bruno are somewhat more creative. I feel they should have the community, or probably this will be happening in the second game, and I hope to see that improvement. Who is going to be that creative part of the midfield? So Tielemans has, if you look, Tielemans and Bruno, they have a similar traits. They like to do those fancy passes, to cut the ball and then just give it to the striker or the wingers who are closing in. And I feel this game was particularly a classic example that the roles were not defined for both of these midfielders. I seriously doubt that this would be a bigger issue, because it's minor tweakings what Carrick would be doing. But I feel once this thing is sorted, like who is going to be that midfielder who is going to create, then I think everyone understands their role. So at least for the midfielders, they will understand who is doing what. This game was a blunder in terms of how midfield was set up and who was supposed to do what, and that's the reason why we would have seen two polar plays by Bruno. So in the first half he was playing as number 9, a sort of number 9, and in the second half he was playing a little bit more deeper. So I feel that comes down to the setup. And coming back to the point where the fans are shouting that he should be sold, that's completely crap. I think he has a mentality. He wants to play at United, and I don't know whether we would be seeing him retiring in this club, but I think he can still give 2 more years or 3 years probably. The best.
I think it's interesting. I agree completely, but I think it's interesting the way we're viewing the performance, because just think how bad it was. It was woeful, taking nothing away from how bad it was. However, we're looking at, for years, we've always struggled against a low block and team sitting in. If you look at a team, we're talking about players getting on the ball and making things happen and instead of being brave. At the end of the day, really, as bad as it was, we smashed them. We're on the ball the whole game. I don't know what the percentage of the stats were, about 80%. That never happens. It means that we're getting on the ball and playing football. It wasn't very good football, but we were doing that. I think the discussion we maybe should be having was, okay, why weren't we breaking down in that final third? I don't think it's so much, which is a discussion we've had far too many times in previous years, where I feel the discussion we're having and I'm feeling is Harry Maguire to the number 6. The discussion really should be the number 10 to the number 9 in that area of the pitch. And they also interlink and they all sort of do influence each other. I'm aware of that. But it's so interesting, because I do think the emotion was so sort of high and volatile in that 90 minutes, considering the optimism pre-match to how it did play out. But funny old game.
Let me get on to a couple of these comments from Dino and Jordan. I appreciate the boys being in the chat. I'll start with this one from Jordan. The issue was Hull were happy for Harry to have the ball because I'm not going to say he's rubbish. Bruno's had difficulty breaking down the 10 players sitting on the 18-yard box with no runners into the box. Dino, surely at 2-0 down, you take a centre back off and bring on an attacker. I did question that's a fair call as well. But then do you go to a back 3? Who do you take off? You know what I mean? You suppose you leave Aiden Heaven and you leave Harry Maguire on. Do you bring Luke Shaw on? Bring Mazzawawi. I'd take Shaw off and bring Mazzawawi back into the 3, probably. Well, Delot can come on, I suppose. This is a good one here. If you watch every cross we've done, it's 5 to 6 Hull players on one United player. We didn't have any drive to go and attack the ball. Yeah, you know what? On that comment, I did have a good
Big
talk. with
centre-backs
someone
too.
about this. Mate, you have a look at our runs. When Sesko came on, I think Sesko came on for Cunha, didn't he? I think it was. I think was it Cunha or Mbumo? I think it was Cunha. I think it was Cunha.
He came on with Rashford, didn't he?
Yeah, I think it was Cunha that came off. If you have a look at Sesko's run, right, it's never delayed. It's never delayed. For me, he's always two in line or just behind the 7 or the 11 every single time. It's not like if you have a look at I know I shouldn't be comparing him to a Wayne Rooney or I'm definitely not going to compare him to a Cristiano Ronaldo, but in the heading wise, I think you got to. They always check in or check out or they just delay that run by at least a half a second instead of trying to sprint into that penalty spot and get onto that header where the flies over or they go up and they just nick it. But for me, Sesko looks like the type of player that wants a lot of information, but a lot of those goals that Rooney, Ronaldo, and Haaland, strikers like that, it's all instinct. I just don't think he's got that instinct as a striker. And it just, you know what I mean? Okay, he scored a couple of goals on the turn last season. There was one time in that game on Saturday night where he could have turned on the ball. And I remember Robin Bruglia was just going off his nut where he should have turned and hit but took an extra touch. And this is what I mean about instinct strikers. It worries me that he's not one of those players. He's always on the pitch looking for information from Bruno or somebody else that's got a bit more experience in the Premier League than him. You know what I mean? It's just that part of it worries me. And then Elliot and I were talking before, what's his name's gone to Saudi Arabia, like for 40 million pounds.
Maybe going. Maybe.
Ollie Watkins, like, you know, he is an instinct striker that he could probably learn off. I don't know. Where do you see that striker position? Do we Cheeto Obi? Do we sort of try and bring him in?
I think the discussion in and around the striker, which we're, I think, forgetting about because we need all these new strikers. We need all the shiny new toys. We need the big sign-ins. The spanner is Joshua Zirkzee. Now, if I threw the question out to everyone without any context, just Joshua Zirkzee, forget any other business, would you sell Joshua Zirkzee? I think it would be pretty unanimous amongst the fan base. Yeah, I'd sell Joshua Zirkzee. However, would you sell Zirkzee if we're not bringing another striker in? Now, you could say financially, maybe you need to, but obviously bodies-wise, you would say no. So I think in regards to the first question, yes, I would sell Zirkzee, but there's no name. I know people have mentioned here, just talking about Ollie Watkins. I haven't seen a credible link in regards to Ollie Watkins or a player like that. I haven't seen any links.
I would agree with Dino here. Look, I watched a lot of Chris Wood last year because of Dino. And he is a good instinct striker. Not that you want him to play full time, but he would probably be a good fit for coming off the bench or something like that. I don't know.
That's for me, and maybe quite a similar player. But again, probably not. You're going to get for any decent price. He probably will cost the best part of 60 million. Now you'd think, but the one from me last couple of seasons is Mateta. I think he would almost come in and be above Šeško. Not to say Šeško went over a career
from Palace
at the moment. So and look, but again, there's no links to that. So is that really going to sort of speed up in the next? What have we got? 5 or 6 days left. I'm not sure, but I think Joshua Zirkzee holds the keys to whatever we want to do in the strike. It's either going to be him or a new guy.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Joshua Zirkzee. We do not recognize him as a striker anymore. He's a typical number 9. Not number 9. He slots in between 9 and 10.
He's a 9.5.
9.5. Yeah.
I still don't understand that kind of stuff. I don't get the 9.5. Yeah, I really don't. It's just paper talk. That 9.5. Give me a break, man.
But he's not a striker. You have seen him for last 2 seasons. Like he's not the person who will be like running like a Haaland, like making those runs and all. He's like a sweet kind of a player who makes the play happens with his sweet touches and all. That's what I make of Zirkzee. But I feel, coming back to the point where you said that you have observed Chris Wood as an instinctive striker, do you think that Chris Wood, if he comes down to United, do you think that the pressure that the United has on him, would that because instinct is something that comes naturally, And
He's
it
a
goes
strong,
on
experienced player.
He's a strong,
but-
experienced
but-
player,
but-
man.
but-
Chris Wood.
Yeah, exactly. But the
I can't
mentality
believe I'm
that
having
one
this
has to
conversation,
have.
but he is. I've
But
got
no,
Pluck
but-
off an here. He's saying Ivan Tony.
Again,
Yeah.
I think the money that Ivan Toney is on in Saudi Arabia is it's just too attractive for him now.
And
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 I
for the
think
same
I do
reason.
think that's probably what's attracting Watkins over there.
Exactly.
He's what, 30 years old now. I mean, and I've not seen a credible source linking him to us, but when a player's he's looking at going for around 40 to 45 million pound. His average is around 16 Premier League goals a season. Should we be looking at him? Is my question.
Okay.
But and just to give you a bit of an analogy, Adam. So when you go down to the IGA and you get your black and gold home brand stuff, right? So
Yeah.
Joshua Zirkzee is like a black and gold version of Roberto Firmino, who played at Liverpool. He's probably a similar type of striker to him, maybe.
But coming back to your point, I feel I think this is what we have been doing, and this is what we did with Baleba transfer. Just consider the scenario where we were knocking Brighton's door and asking for Baleba, what's your transfer fee for him? And I'm quite sure Brighton would have played the hard ball. I feel how the Baleba transfer unfolded in last 2 weeks or last week. I think that's the same strategy might happen. I know there's no rumors right now for Ollie Watkins, but the moment you said that he is available for 40, and I think that is the price that has been given to the Saudi club. Now, if United is smart enough and they want to pull this transfer like Baleba, because in Baleba's transfer, the moment Newcastle inquired, the transfer fee was set. It was 60 to 65, and then United swoop in. I feel this strategy could be worked if we try to do it with Ollie Watkins. Because if we went to Aston Villa to ask what is the price for Ollie Watkins, they would have said, "Oh, 60 million for you." But the moment we are not going in, we are not going as the first club to ask and inquire. We are asking the other clubs to go inquire the price for that player, and then we will swoop in later on. Unless and until Ollie Watkins wants to go to Saudi. No, that worked for Baleba. Adam, kid you not.
I'm not
do you
laughing
think
at
that-
you. I'm laughing at Dino's comment here. Greenwood
okay.
scored a hat trick on the weekend. If you see me laughing, I'm not laughing at you guys. I'm laughing at the chat. Kills me
That's
every
something we
time I
cannot
hear
see,
something about Greenwood. I'm just like, fucking hell.
No, but what do you
Yeah.
think, Tom? Do you think that this could be a strategy in that case? Like we not being the first one to inquire and just waiting for the other clubs to inquire, give us a price tag, and then we'll swoop in.
For
Which
us, for us watching as fans, that's what it looks like. I remember the perfect example of that. I remember was Terrell Malacia when he was on the verge of going to Lyon. I remember they agreed a deal that was the Fabrizio Romano. Here we go, and that was the price tag. Suddenly, United went in with that and 1 million extra. You can't charge us 80 million now because you've already agreed and announced that you're going to accept this. So yeah, on paper, when we see how a transfer unfolds, that's sometimes how it looks, and sometimes that may be the case. These are huge multi-million-dollar deals. Who knows how they work? Who knows what the approach is? We see the end result and say, yep, that makes sense. Who knows if that's the approach or not? I'm sure sometimes they have that approach or they take advantage of a situation. They hear something. They hear a fee has been agreed. So maybe they can swoop in there. Other times maybe it just sort of eventuates like that. You just don't know. That's why whatever we think of this documentary that's going to come out and how truthful it will be. But when you do look at the other clubs and the way they do it, it does seem quite an insight, and it all seems quite legitimate. When the sort of Netflix or Amazon, whoever they are, they have a lot of the control. It will be fascinating just to be a fly on the wall in terms of one of these things and how they unfold. Like when we see this Baleba deal come out in a year's time, when we watch the behind the scenes. It might have been their first. It might have been their first target back in June and July they were working on. You just don't know.
Yeah.
But it looks like it's the last one we've worked after a panic defeat against Hull. So look, I agree that's sometimes how they do look, and when it pays off like that, it does look a good strategy, especially when Manchester United are probably the club in the transfer market that is taken advantage of the most by other clubs. It is a good way to not really have to go and do the dirty work and get embarrassed. You can let others do the work and just hope your name, prestige, and an extra 20K on your wage is going to sort of provide the telling factor. But I think it's just one of those ones you just don't know how they unfold. Like, we say all these names. It's Favell, it's Wilcox, it's Barada. It might be a lawyer doing something else. It might be a phone call between two mates who get the deals done. You just don't know how these deals are done. We all think we do. The fact is, we don't have a clue.
Mate, Tom, I've been saying that for a while. The amount of things that people go on about, and so I mean, especially on TikTok about deals and what we should do and everything like that. At the end of the day, no one has a clue what goes on. No one. People always say to me, "Oh, how do you know where do you get your information from and everything like that?" The difference is I try and read between the lines. I don't read everything to the T. And then you discuss it with a few people that have got the knowledge, and you're like, well, it has to happen. You know what I mean? It's just like you can't believe, I say it consistently, you can't believe everything you read. You know what I mean? Anyway, it looks like he's gone and had his medical and everything like that. I didn't want to harp too much on about the weekend's game because I still want to stay very, very, very positive about United. Belaber's had his medical. It was all passed and everything like that. So I'm expecting him to play this weekend, being that he's had a medical and they've cleared that. Does he make that big difference for us? He is very quick.
The missing link.
Is he the missing link? That's correct, Elliot. Elliot, lead the way on this discussion.
Me? Look, I think he certainly would have fitted our midfield mould on the weekend better based on how the game panned out. I still don't know if he's more of a box-to-box or if he's more of a sitting ball winner and a driver of the ball. Like he's certainly a stronger, like from a physicality perspective than any other option we've got in the midfield at the moment, and I think we need that now that Casemiro's gone. Yeah, look, I think it's 3 new midfielders that we've brought in now. It's what, as a United fan base, we've asked for, at least 3 midfielders, and that's happened. So, we can take that as a positive from the club. But I think it's now up to the manager to understand what's the best combination. Is there a best combination, or is there just a combination that's more suited based on the opponent against us, based on if they're low block, if they're or if we're more of a counter-attacking style when we play against the bigger teams like Arsenal, City, etc.
I've got a little question here on TikTok here, and he goes, do you think the 2 DMs going forward should be Yuri Santos or Baleba or Mainu or what's it got here? Yuri Santos, Baleba or Mainu and Santos?
There's a thousand different variations
so
and
many
combinations.
Combos
and look, halfway through the season, there's going to be a time in January, someone's on the bench and we're screaming for him to play, and 2 players come in and they go away to the Etihad and we have a great performance and we win. We think that's the formula. That's what we're going with. And then they get knocked out of the FA Cup the next week. We think, why are we playing these 2 in midfield? It doesn't work. I just think I've always looked at, not to compare ourselves to Real Madrid, but every time we sign a player or we're linked with a player, we say, where's he going to play? Where's he going to play? There's no room for him. We can't be having sort of 150 grand a week sitting on the bench. Then I go look at Real Madrid, who are winning Champions League after Champions League, and their whole bench is on like 300 grand a week. Now, that's not me advocating to go spend that money to sit on the bench, but the quality they do have not playing is extreme. And we had to get to the stage now where, and I'm guilty of this, I say, oh, no, we can't buy this player because this guy's going to be playing. Well, you go look at the stats at the end of a season. The players who we think aren't good enough or are bench players, they're racking up 40 appearances a season. Yeah. We think they never play. They're playing every week. It's one of those things like everyone plays. And I just think the positive of having real depth in quality is if you're performing, you're going to play. And if you're performing, that means Manchester United are winning. So that's a good thing. And the cutthroat nature of it, and I do sort of call for a little bit of patience, but the cutthroat nature is if you aren't performing and you do have depth, well, the manager can change it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
And
good
relax.
to have those options. I think good to have those options around because we were in the last season we were literally dependent on Casemiro. Heavily dependent on one or two midfielders. Right now we have options. We can try some combinations with all these midfielders around because all the midfielders that we have got this year as well as the midfielders that we had before, uh, everyone has a different profile, so we can mix and match these profiles and see how, and depending on the game. But then again, a drastic change in the midfield would certainly impact the chemistry that we are going to see, because there should be some sort of a core built in setting up the team, and according to that core you make those few changes, not the entire midfield. So one week we are playing Santos, Tillman and Bruno. The next week we are playing Kobe Manu, Baleba and like James Schwartz. So that doesn't work. So
I think
have a core.
Baleba has the makeup. It's okay. It's going to be this guy with this guy. Is it going to be 2 8s? Is it going to be 1 6? Is it going to be 2 6s? However you view it at the moment, without a ball being kicked, I think Baleba and I think Manu's our best player. I even put him over Bruno Fernandes, and a lot of people disagree. I think Manu at his best can be our best player. I think what Baleba can bring, his attributes, whether he can deliver it in a United shirt, time will tell. But I think he has the potential, his traits and the way he plays, to nail down that spot first, and everyone else sort of works around him. I think in terms of, you look at Casemiro over the last couple of years, we've loved Casemiro, but our question has been, oh God, it would have been good to have him 5 or 10 years ago, where he's got a little bit more legs. We always questioned his legs. I'm not saying Baleba plays the same as Casemiro, but kind of in the same area of the pitch and tries to offer the same sort of thing. So I do think if Baleba gets on it and he's playing well, I think that'll be hard to drop. I think it'll be Baleba and two
He's
others.
the first man on the sheet, sort of thing.
If he doesn't perform, though, then I'll be making a case for Tielemans and Santos or Manu and Bruno. It'll change, obviously. But I think he has the potential. If he plays well, I think it'll be hard to drop in terms of
I think you're right.
the issues we've had in previous years.
Yeah, I think you're right.
We've got wrong one. Dino here. He's gone Baleba, Manu, and Bruno.
I think
Is
so.
he
I think
starting
Dino's.
through?
I think Dino's right. Yeah.
I would, at the moment, that's what I would agree with if they're all on form.
Yeah.
And
I did
Dino's
just
gone
read-
back
I
a bit. Casemiro would have scored 3 headers at Hull. But see, he delays his run and drives to the box, and that is in that sentence is my whole point about players sprinting toward. Well, they're not even sprinting; they're actually dawdling towards the box. There's no intent, and I've been saying that for years.
Maybe I was just been reading. Maybe Chris Wood could be an option for United. In all seriousness, I've just read that Forest are potentially tabling a bid for Thiago from Brentford. I don't think they'll let him go, but if they did, Chris Wood's available. Dino could get his dream.
Mate, Dino, he'd be the first man on Dino's shirt, that's for sure.
Isn't number 11 vacant? It's ready for Chris Wood.
Far out. Anyways, I just want to touch on the left back position. This is it Alessandro Blade. I don't know if any of you
Boulder.
blokes have watched him at Boulder, is it? I don't know.
No, but
Alejandro Boulder.
Boulder. Okay, so he's played 22, 23 times for Barcelona. What's he like as a left back? Tell me about it. I don't know.
Sorry to interrupt you guys, but just now news broke in that Samuel Lockhurst is saying that Arsenal is still prepared to sell MLS, Miles Lewis Kelly, if a club meets their steep valuation of £50 million.
I think Samuel Lockhurst is reaching the last couple of years since he got the sack from MEN. I wouldn't be. Look, I think the story is there, no doubt. Of course,
You'll be reading too much into it.
And
I'll wait for a different journalist.
Ornstein is
David Ornstein. Yeah, that's the most reliable one.
He seems to be the guy at the moment, doesn't he? I think in terms of left back, what I have read about Boulder, I don't know too much about him. What I have read about him is he's got some injury, like a bit of an injury history there. A lot of hamstring muscle injuries and stuff. I hope if we are linked with him that it's no more than just a loan, just to get us through the year, and then next year we're all in for Lewis Hall. I don't think Lewis Hall's going to be tempted away from Newcastle this year. So I think if we bring in Boulder, I think it's hopefully just a loan for a year. The other one is Raum, the German left back.
David Rom.
David Raum. Now, I reckon Mr. Sykes in the chat probably watches him quite closely. He seemed like a very good attacking left back, which I think is what we need. Luke Shaw can't get up and down as much as what he used to. You saw him struggle with that.
You have a look at him on the weekend, right? His first 5 passes were all negative, man. First 5 passes always went back. They went from Harry Maguire to Aiden Heaven to Luke Shaw, from Luke Shaw back to Aiden Heaven, back to Harry Maguire. And it just kept going like that the whole friggin' first 20 minutes of the play on the weekend.
Did he look better when Rashford came on? I'm not saying that he did, but
yeah,
do you think he did?
But by then the pressure's built. The game's gone. They're sitting deep. They're playing for everything, even though they're playing for everything. But even on their Hull's counter attack, it was that good. And Luke Shaw, as soon as he gets into that front third, he can't get back. And that's why it left Aiden Heaven stranded and Harry Maguire in that pocket with Santos and no one around him every single time. Because Mazraoui, don't forget, he goes high as well. As soon as Luke Shaw goes high, Mazraoui's sort of trailing as well on the other side.
I'll tell you what, on this left-back issue now, and look, every transfer is important. The start of July is as important as the end of August in regards to getting the business done and the right business. And here we are all screaming for a left-back. I think that's the demand, and it's my demand as well. Okay, go fix this left-back issue. It is so important United don't make a mistake, though. Well, Ellie just brought up a good point, which I hadn't really considered. But if it is going to be this guy from Barcelona, consider a loan. I never really think of that when buying a player, but maybe in regards to the situation, it is something that he's probably growing in football and business. Okay, go test a player for a year if Lewis Hall is the main target. So maybe a loan there, I wouldn't lose too much sleep. But what Man United can't do now is there is a panic situation at left back. Man United cannot go out and sign the wrong player for 50 million. We cannot have a problem at left back. We need to fix in a year's time, but we can't because we've overspent. This is so important to do it right. Now, is the right business if Lewis Hall's a man and you can't find a left back? Don't go and get one and make do with what we have. Maybe that's the right business. Maybe that's the wrong business. I don't have the answer, but I know what can't happen. United cannot make a mistake in regards to going getting a player. I don't want to say Alex Tellers. I didn't hate Alex Tellers, and that wasn't big money. But don't go and get a player like that and think, oh, God, that didn't work. We have to go back to the left-back market in a year's time. I think we have to do the right business now in and around left-back and not make... And it's easy. You can make the great sign on paper. Everyone agrees that's perfect. And the player breaks his leg and he proves to be a bad signing. You never know how it's going to unfold. But it's so important in this panic situation we don't stuff up whatever business we have planned at left-back.
Makes sense.
Comment here. I'd say United pay $55 million for Theo Hernandez. Don't know who he is.
AC Milan. French left back.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what's going to happen.
It's like we've got the world on our shoulders, doesn't it? Like this, it's just like... And the other thing we've got to think about is not upsetting Luke Shaw. I know it shouldn't come into football, but this guy has been around our club for such a long time. You know what I mean? Like, there's got to be a changing of the guard sooner or later. So is now sort of the prime time to make that change?
We spoke earlier about, I think right at the start, in regards to the debate or a little bit of tension between Barada, between Vivell, between Michael Carrick. Who's calling the shots? Is it his player? Is he signing off on the transfer? Does he agree with it? Let's just say hypothetically we were the board. We were the 4 people in charge of transfers. We're going to have 4 different opinions.
We're the club breaks.
Well, that's the thing. I think it's good that there's tension. It's good there's disagreements in regards to you can't just have everyone agreeing. So that is good. But that is also when you do take a step back and realise now they're paid a lot of money to get the right. So they're in it far. Depends how you look at it. Easier position in my view because they're very well paid. They can go home at night and not really worry. But that is the tricky nature that they are going to have because yes, someone's going to be proven right, someone's going to be proven wrong, and who's going to sort of take that leap? Now, that's their job. They're at Manchester United. They do have to take that risk, but it is so hard where, until we're a fly on the wall, and I'm not sort of hammering home that I'm over the moon that Manchester United are letting cameras behind the scenes. I'm not, but I'm going to be tuned in like everyone else. This documentary is going to provide a lot of insight in regards to who is really calling the shots and sort of who is on the phone making these calls to agents and players. And it'll be interesting because at the moment we're saying, yep, Michael Carrick likes him, Vavell doesn't like him. Yep, that's Vavell's player because he plays in Germany. Barada doesn't like him. Ratcliffe's calling the shots, and we just don't know. We just have no idea. But and I'm guilty as anyone. We definitely make draw a lot of conclusions.
All right, boys, we've just hit an hour. I'm glad we've got it off our chest as well. We can't even sign a sleeve sponsor, mate. Not only that, the third kit made in Europe is supposed to have a sponsor on the bottom. So, yeah, there are a couple of little niggling things that our club needs to iron out. Just go on an hour, boys. We've got Ipswich this weekend. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for everyone in the chat. I need to get to bed. I need to get this cold out of my system. It's driving me crazy. I'm heading to Malaysia.
The Champions League draw Friday morning.
Friday morning, yes. So, whatever, Elliot, have we found out what time that's on yet?
Yeah.
What is it?
Early.
It's early. 3 a.m. I think.
Okay, then I can watch peacefully.
It is.
It'll be all right
it
for
is-
you, Nick, won't it?
Yeah,
it is
exactly.
it is live on Stan Sport, I believe.
Okay.
Watch a replay.
I may
of
get
it.
up for it. We may go live on TikTok.
I'm going
Elliot,
camping
if
that
you-
weekend, so
Although I've seen
sweet, so you'll be up.
I remember watching the last couple of, not really watching, but they've been on in the background. The last couple of draws, they do it for the Europa and Champions League. This new format, when the draw's been made, you don't have a clue what's happening. You don't know who's in what group, who goes into what. They just pull the names out and they're going over. You have no idea until it's finally done on who your 7 opponents are.
Yeah. I got Dino saying it's a public holiday up there on Friday. So, and then he's got, let's do a pod. Dino, are you getting up? Are you saying to me you're getting up at 3 o'clock?
I don't have a public holiday. I don't have a public holiday up here on Friday, so it must be a local one for Dino because I don't have one.
Anyway, let's move on. It is currently just gone 9 p.m. here. So thank you, boys. I'm glad we've got all this off our chest. We can move forward to Ipswich now. Thank you to everyone that was on TikTok and the normal boys. Jordan, hurry up and get back. Dino, hurry up and get back on. We're missing yous. We love yous in the chat. They were monitoring Natasha. She didn't last long. So thank you for doing that, boys. And thank you, Nick. Send me a schedule again. That way we can get you regularly on.
Sure.
All right. Talk to you later. See you later. Check.
See ya, guys. Cheers.